Welcome to Objection to the Forum. This week I've got a special guest, Margot Weatherford. Welcome.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks for having me.
I wanted you to come on to discuss a subject that's near and dear to my heart. That's something I've been thinking about a bunch, and that's buying international property. It's really interesting to me that you kind of are involved in that niche, and it's something that people think about all the time. But I think it's kind of logistically, you wonder how to accomplish it.
Right. Well, I mean, it definitely is. It's a totally different market than buying in the States. And for me, I actually sell down in Jamaica, but I'm also a certified international property specialist.
If I could stop you there, what does that mean?
Yeah. So, SIPS, it's through NAR, and it's a designation. It's a 2-day course that you go to, and essentially it's just training you on different international markets, and how different cultures operate, how they do business, not just in the real estate world, but also trading, where the majority of their success comes from. And yeah, it just helps us understand those clients better.
Do you have to have licenses in each individual country where you're going to practice, or is it a matter of that certification carrying you through various countries?
Right. So depending on the country, of course, if someone wanted to go to Costa Rica and help, a client purchase a villa there, they could do it, because in Costa Rica you don't have to have a real estate license, apparently. I haven't helped anyone in Costa yet, but in Jamaica you do have to have the real estate license. So it depends on the country. Yeah.
So I imagine that'd be difficult. I mean, I guess in some sense, real estate or business is business, but in other sense, just like I was thinking, if you're going to do a transaction in Costa Rica, I presume the contract would be in Spanish.
Yes, it is in Costa Rica. Now, I'm going to be straightforward. I'm not knowledgeable to a T in every country.
Yeah. No, that'd be a lot to...
Yeah, however, in Jamaica, in those Caribbean countries, I do know quite a bit about how the industry operates. So, for anyone out there who's looking to sell international real estate, I would say focus on a particular market and a particular country so that you can get to know it really well.
So, if somebody's interested in buying property, I guess you said that Jamaica is where you're primarily licensed. Do they is it like how it would work in the States, where they say, I want to take a look at these properties? Or I imagine it's a little bit different going to Jamaica than driving around Wilmington. So do you just go, is it like your typical buyers where they want to see 20 different properties, or do you just say, look, if we're going down to Jamaica, we're
going to see these 2 or 3? Yeah, it depends on the client. I have actually several clients right now that are in the States, and we are negotiating offers for them on the island as we speak. So today I was on the phone with one of my lenders in Kingston, and he's getting a buyer that's in Philadelphia pre-approved for a property she wants to purchase in Ocho Rios. And we have another buyer, he's in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's also getting pre-approved to purchase a villa in Montego Bay. Of course, for us, without getting too much into the details, like we write in conditional, they have to go and see it before they actually move forward with the acceptance of the offer. But yeah, it just depends, honestly. Do
you go down there for any of these, or do you pretty much just handle it from afar?
So with COVID, it limited things, but typically I'll go down. Yeah. For example, I had clients last year that purchased in Montego Bay, and they were from Atlanta. I met them down there. We went and saw several properties. I drove. They were a little bit scared of that at first, but then they learned to trust, the American girl behind the wheel.
Yeah. Is it right side or left side over there?
It's left side.
Yeah, so like I said, I always remembered something that's like your shoulder needs to be next to the line or something, and not the kind of rule of thumb.
I don't know. For us, it's just kind of like look out for cars coming, head on. Yeah, so it's definitely different for every buyer, to answer your question.
Procedurally, are there much differences between a Jamaican real estate transaction and one that happens in North or South Carolina? Procedurally,
yes. Time frame is longer because a lot of what they do is not as electronic as it is in the States. And then secondly, there are other municipalities, that the contract has to go through. For example, here in the States, us as realtors, we actually help our clients sign the offer to purchase, the contract. But in Jamaica, the attorneys do that. So realtors are totally hands off from the agreement for sale.
I'm sure that takes forever if you get attorneys trying to, trying to deal with contracts. And it's going to be a bunch of change this comma here, change this, and be a lengthy process.
Yeah, and they're mailing packages, back to the States or to Canada or wherever. So,
are the attorneys you're working with, are they Jamaican attorneys, or are they in the States?
They're Jamaican. Yes. And I have a great friend in Kingston who is my go-to attorney, and she's wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess you've got a lengthier process down there. Is it kind of are the same issues present with respect to like earnest money, due diligence, inspections, kind of the typical things that happen in American transactions?
So on the island, Jamaica specifically speaking, everything is as is where is. So when you purchase a property, you are purchasing it as it is when you sign the agreement for sale. We do have a deposit that's paid upon the signing of the agreement, but as far as in the States, we're seeing, oh my gosh, I got a contract today for $50,000 in due diligence for a listing.
For an American?
Yes, in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Those kind of numbers, like due diligence fees, we do not have on the island yet.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into something I was going to ask you, is just about kind of is the Jamaican market or the kind of the Caribbean market caught up to where things are in America right now with like $50,000 due diligence payments and kind of the frenzy that seems to be going on right now?
The competitiveness that we see here. Not quite as much, because a lot of folks are pretty much stuck or quarantined, in their home country. Specifically speaking, a lot of European countries are still closed. London, UK has been shut down for forever, and it's still shut. So a lot of the folks that would be purchasing on the island, Canada, UK, even some in the US, are reluctant to go down to Jamaica because of what we've experienced this past year.
How does the value compare right now in what you can get overseas versus kind of a coastal community in the southeast of America?
Yeah, so I get, a lot of folks will ask me, like, how much would I have to pay for a little villa or a little condo by the sea in Jamaica?
Yeah, that's a question. That's on my list. That's a question on my list.
Yeah, and of course it depends on where you want to be on the island, but I would say, anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000 US. The Jamaican dollar is definitely incredibly depressed compared to the US dollar. So for every $1 US, it's about 145 JMD right now. To put that in layman's terms, $250,000 US is probably $40 million in Jamaica, Jamaican dollars. So if you're purchasing in Jamaican dollars, you're definitely getting a deal. That's for sure.
Well, that's it. And so you mentioned, so I guess Ochi, I kind of think about Jamaica like with respect to sandals. Is what I'm trying to think of. It's like that's the map that's in my head. Like, I know there's the sandals. There's an Ochi. There's Montego. But Kingston, that's the capital, right?
Kingston is the capital. Yes.
Do you do it? So have you done transactions anywhere else other than Jamaica?
So as far as like my license number on it, no, because I sell North Carolina, South Carolina, and Jamaica. However, I send a lot of referrals to Bahamas, Cayman Islands, Belize. I have great partners there. And, my goal for my business, International Coastal Properties, is to open with a partner in Cayman and a partner in Bahamas this year. Yeah. So that's something that we're working on.
Well, that sounds like a great goal, and that's that just a lot of times I've got a lot of realtor friends, and sometimes they'll complain about like buyers. Right. Like, I don't want to go see 10 listings or 15, or
ride around in the car just to lose deals.
Yeah, exactly. But I was thinking, like, well, if you're going to Belize, that could be all right then. Although it'd be expensive. I mean, but at the same time, I guess if there's worse things to have to go out to Belize.
Yeah, sure. And I have great referral partners. So if someone comes to me and they say, hey, Margot, I want to buy a place in Ambergris Key down in Belize, or I want to buy a place in Puerto Rico, I have partners that I can immediately send them to who are fabulous, and I trust to take really great care of them.
So one of the things that I think we both have in common is that we're both licensed in North Carolina and South Carolina. And from the legal perspective, it's, I don't want to say night and day, but it's very different from my perspective when I have a South Carolina case
right,
or a South Carolina transaction versus in North Carolina. Are you staying active in the South Carolina market?
I am, yes. In fact, I was working on a couple of transactions yesterday. So, yeah, I have a partner that's working with me in Myrtle Beach and Florence. So now I'm kind of getting to a point where like I'll refer it to her. But yeah, I'm up to date on all of my continuing ed, and I still practice in both states.
Now, does South Carolina let you count your North Carolina continuing ed for?
No.
So that's the one nice thing within the legal world. If you're in compliance in another state, you can send that into South Carolina. They'll let you do that.
Yeah. Well, this is my year to re-up in South Carolina, so I have some continuing ed to do before June 30th.
And the realtors are serious about the continuing ed classes, from what I understand. Like the proctors, or you have to check in and check out. So and
very much, yes.
And with lawyers, we're kind of a self-regulating industry, so it's I mean, everybody takes it seriously and they put in their time, but it's not as we don't have the people kind of watching over us, like the proctors with some of the. Yeah,
and it's definitely different. I mean, the South Carolina contract, I still practice. I'm a member of the PD Realtors Association.
The what? Peach? That's like the middle of the state. That's like Florence.
It's like Florence and the surrounding.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're also members in Myrtle Beach. But, a lot of the contracts that or the offers that are being submitted on my listings in Florence, due diligence is something that those agents are not really using yet.
The versus the earnest money.
Well, they're due diligence period versus repair period, because repair period is still written into the contract.
Gotcha.
In South Carolina.
Well, what's the difference between a due diligence and a repair period?
So the due diligence period is really let the buyer beware, so in other words, well, legally speaking, right, you would know this better than me.
Well, I guess, no, I know the way I understand it is typically like the way I understand it is due diligence is during your inspection period, you can cancel the contract for any or no reason.
Right, exactly.
And that's kind of your time to feel out the property.
Whereas the repair period, it's different.
So that makes sense to me then. So the due diligence period is you just identify what needs to be fixed, and then but the repair period, you can say, all right, well, you've got X amount of time to make your repairs before we're buying this.
Exactly.
Well, I think that makes sense as far as a way, especially building it into the contract, because we experience sometimes a lot of commotion on closing day about like, don't record this, some repair is supposed to be made, or the movers have scratched the floor or something, something along those lines.
Yeah, sure.
And I mean, it'd be kind of, and I understand though, you don't want to, it's a substantial investment, and you don't want to do it if it's not right. Right. But it almost seems like it'd be nice if those issues were resolved through maybe a that'd be nice.
Well, I guess if the mover scratched the floor, regardless, you're still going to have to deal with it. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, being a member of associations in South Carolina, North Carolina, and in Jamaica. Obviously, I see all of those contracts and all of the forms that come with those different associations. And North Carolina is by far the most thorough, the Realtors Association.
Well, they change it like every couple months, it seems like.
And they're I think South Carolina is 9 pages, North Carolina is 16 pages, and Jamaica is 1 page. Offer to purchase, do you want it or not?
Well, but how? So these attorneys find a way to take the 1-page contract and take.
Well, the agreement for sale package is different. Yeah, but it's fun. I love what I do, and I think the bottom line with international real estate, and especially in the Caribbean, is that we're able to help expats, people from other countries, make home ownership and vacation home ownership a reality in the Caribbean, and that's a big deal.
I think Raleigh has a direct flight to Jamaica, don't they? Yeah,
to Montego Bay.
Oh, that's super. Yeah, that's because I guess it's a haul. Anytime you're in an island, especially a different country, it's a ways away. But I imagine it's like a 3-hour flight from North Carolina. Yeah, 3 or 4 hours. Frontier used to have a direct that was like $90 round trip, and that was fabulous. Do you find that you kind of have the same clients that are interested in several, like maybe somebody that's in the Myrtle or Wilmington area that's saying, well, I could move to kind of northern South Carolina or Brunswick County, it doesn't really matter to me. Let's take a look at both of them.
Right. So as far as relocation clients, which we've got a lot of folks right now who are at that stage in their life where, you know, maybe they're retired or they've come into a large amount of money, whether it be through stocks or selling real estate this past year. And they're kind of looking at it like, hey, I want to be on the coast. I like the Carolinas. Maybe they live in New York. They're looking at the Carolinas. But they're really not sure where they want to be. And so we're here to guide them. You know, between the two, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and Wilmington, you have over 20 beaches in between all three of those areas. And my team knows all of those beaches. So we're there. Once we get an idea of what the client is really looking for, we can help guide them. Because otherwise, you know, you can't, I mean, you're going to take a week or 2 weeks to tour the whole coastline of both states.
Well, I imagine, so if I was buying property in New York or something, you know, I wouldn't know what to tell, you know, what to say as far as, I mean, I've been to the city a couple times.
Right, or what questions to ask.
Yeah, so I imagine that's very helpful where you can kind of narrow it down for somebody, or if they don't know the difference between Bald Head and Oak Island or something.
Right, yeah, and there's a huge difference, right? So we're those local consultants for them. That's what I like to say. You know, we're realtors, but we're really consultants because we're here to sit down, listen to their needs, listen to their wants, and help guide them. And you know, the tagline of my team is, "We are your connection to the coast." And in all of these locations, that's what we are. We're a connection to the coast.
So speaking of, so you mentioned earlier that you've got a team member in the kind of the Florence PD area that's handling a lot of your South Carolina transactions.
Yeah.
I know Heather in the locals level. I know there's one other member of your team, isn't there?
Lydia.
And how do you just, how does your team work? Does each person have their specialty, or is it just kind of everybody covering each other's events or kind of marketing efforts?
Right, so how does it work? I mean, for us, right now in North Carolina, the majority of our listings, you know, if someone comes to us and they say, I want to sell my house, they'll meet with me. And we'll go over the marketing plan, pricing, make sure that everything's lined up properly to list it aggressively, and do a great job to closing. Heather is getting more integrative into the listing side of things because she would like to. However, between her and Lydia right now, they're really working with all of our buyer clients here in North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, that's good to have, you know, be able to share responsibilities, and you don't have to, you can do the fun showings out there.
Well, I'm, you know, and listing versus buyer, like listing agents are typically very direct, right? Because we have to have conversations with our clients that sometimes they want to hear and sometimes they don't.
Well, you know, and I told myself I wasn't going to do a market's crazy interview type thing. Yeah. So I mean, it's just, you know, you see a bunch of it, and I think everybody's kind of got an idea now. But, you know, speaking of those situations, you're talking about the frank conversations you have to hear or you have to have with sellers sometimes. Right. Or people just coming in kind of like, hey, sell my house, you know, let's go to the moon. You know, it's my time. Yeah,
I mean, as far as pricing, some sellers do have a very inflated expectation of what their home is worth because, you know, right now, I mean, prices are up like 12%, as everyone knows. However, some folks come in and they want to go even above that to negotiate that down. And what we help them understand is, one, of course, appraisal value. Like, we want to make sure it will appraise if we're accepting an offer contingent on financing. And then secondly, we're going to receive more offers and more activity in the first 7 days if we price aggressively.
Yeah, and so, and I guess that like everybody wants to be the neighborhood hero or something. Like we're gonna
set the bar.
Yeah. Yeah, but I can see where that could be troublesome at some time.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We actually have a guarantee in place. So if we list a home and we cannot secure an offer within 7 days, then we'll actually pay our client $1,000.
That's awesome. So let me see if I understand. You said, so if you don't get an offer within 7 days.
If we don't have an accepted offer within 7 days, we'll pay our client $1,000.
Well, and I think that makes sense because I guess the client can kind of, because you know, they can't define the parameters with saying like, all right, well, I want, you know, whatever, something unrealistic.
Yeah,
but if it's an accepted offer, I guess you've already gotten in, all right, I know what where they're trying to go with this.
Right, and kind of what the margin should be to get there. Yeah. So we're confident, you know, you can sell homes right now if you price them right. I think what's going to be interesting is what happens in fall and winter of next year.
Yeah.
With the way that the real estate market goes.
Well, it's my understanding that a lot of the real estate market's driven by, or at least the residential market is driven by school schedules. Mm-hmm. And is that what makes kind of the spring, summer, the kind of your peak time, or
peak seasons? Yeah, it definitely is. And you know, especially of course after taxes, a lot of folks have a little bit of liquid cash to be thinking about what they want to do with it next. But you know, this year is interesting because with COVID and with kids being homeschooled or working virtually, schooling virtually, I think that, you know, it really allowed us to kind of capitalize on the spring and summer market a lot sooner than we would had it not been COVID.
And would you say the majority of the people that you're working with kind of in this coastal area of the North and South Carolina, are the majority of the people you're working with from the area, or is it mainly relocation?
I would say it's a fairly strong mix of both, honestly. You know, we do a lot of business through agent referrals, so I have realtors that I'm partnered with that know me really well all over the world, really, and so they'll send us referrals here for listing and buyer clients. We have a great network of people who know, like, and trust us, past clients that send us business. So it's a mixture of both. However, on our website, it's definitely the majority of them are relocation that are looking at homes on our website.
Yeah, and I imagine that's you know, with referrals and that being a lot of it. I mean, if you're not from the area, then that's probably the best way to
right. Find a trusted realtor and work with them. Yeah. So we have a good mix. We do.
What do you see in terms of the trends as far as fall? I mean, I know kind of the trend is up, but you know, but besides that and the relocation, do you kind of see like a certain type of property is easier to sell than others?
You mean moving into the summer and fall, or just in general?
Like, or just like, well, currently, like, what are the what would be your ideal if you're like, all right, I'd like to have this property under contract by the end of the week. By end of the week, so anything, it's just anything.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you can list a $2 million, like we've seen some $2 million properties go under contract in the first 2 days, and we see, you know, anything under $300,000 in Wilmington is going to be gone within the first week. So it depends on the property, location, and condition. And pricing, you know, did they price it according to the condition of the property?
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've got some friends that were told they were kind of looking to list their house. They're like, well, I got to fix this, I got to do that. I was like, you need to move. I mean, from my experience of what I'm running into, it seems like, and what I'm hearing from folks, is that the properties are moving so quickly. It's like, you know,
like, is it even worth it?
You know,
to really do those repairs?
Yeah.
We had that conversation yesterday. A seller that, you know, they were thinking about doing some things, repainting and, you know, maybe fixing up or renovating a bathroom, putting a new vanity in. Yeah. And what we told them is, look, in your neighborhood, there's been nothing for sale in the past 3 months, and we also see a trend in your price range of homes going really quickly. So, you know, I mean, we're getting appraisals, or we're getting offers in right now on properties $30,000 over list price, and they're appraising for that. Well, so people are out there fighting for homes, and I would recommend for your friends to really think about, you know, saving the money on the renovations. Is
the purpose of doing all the renovations, is it just allowing the buyer to kind of roll the renovation cost into their loan? Is that the kind of the reason? Because from my perspective, like, all things being equal, if somebody, I would rather buy a house that needed $30,000 worth of renovations for $30,000 less, and
and do it yourself.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to be swinging hammers or anything.
Well, right, but the way that you would want
but
it
yeah,
to
but
look.
exactly,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so that way I could kind of pick it out. And I mean, I know there is the inconvenience factor of people in your home and having to accommodate that and that sort of thing. So I guess I get that convenience of not having to deal with the.
Yeah, I think it depends on if you have a house and there are some repairs or some renovations that you could do to make it more appealing to buyers, then my recommendation would be to make it a very clean slate. So in other words, if you have a purple living room, purple painted walls, maybe choose a light blue, or I'm looking at the paint color in this room, like a seafoam green or a nice gray, just to kind of cool the tones down in the home. Because right now everyone's loving that coastal, really light and airy look. I'm colorblind. Like I was convinced this was gray or blue, and then somebody told me it's green, and I kind of was like, well, I guess maybe it is. Maybe a different lighting. But hey, it works regardless. It's a great color. Yeah. I
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the takeaway is it looks like there's still opportunities for folks that want to. You could be. You could go down to Holden Beach or anywhere in the Caribbean. And it sounds like it's an obtainable thing, and it's nothing to be afraid of. Even though I guess right now it's just you're just going to have to deal with the competitive environment. Right,
exactly. And if you do buy international property, make sure that you have a great property manager or someone that you trust to handle things when you're not there. And then also make sure that you have an easy flight pattern of like getting there. For Jamaica, I can do direct, like you said, from Raleigh. But if I had a home in Turks and Caicos, or if I had a place in St. John, it would take me longer to get there. So I want to make sure I have a trusted person on the ground who's going to look after the property when I'm not there.
Do people do that even if they're not renting it or doing anything? It's just if it's their second home or a vacation home?
Do they
have like somebody like on the ground there to check on things for them? And
yeah, I have friends, several friends that have villas in Montego Bay. They live in the States, and they have a caretaker that actually stays on the property full time. They have a housekeeper that's there every day. They have a gate guard that's there every day. So fully operational, almost a business really, without anyone being there.
Well, it sounds, the more you explain it, the more appealing it sounds.
I have some great villas for sale, Justin.
You say 250 to 450. A villa by the sea.
Well, I could get you a condo by the sea for that.
Yeah, so like I don't know if I could swing anything with a gate and a gate attendant and that sort of thing. But maybe I could do a villa.
There's lots of options out there, so keep that in mind.
Well, Margot, it sounds like things are going great for you and your team, and I thank you for coming and joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's been fun being here.